What is up, Hydration Nation? It is Mr. Bossman 914 here, and today we are making a remake of a video I did quite a while ago, and I just now realized that it kind of blew up a little bit. It's actually my second most famous video on my channel, believe it or not, and that is going to be ranking my Pikmin 2 caves. I still can't believe this is one of my most famous videos. I don't know why this got big all of a sudden, but it did. So I am remaking it. Now, keep in mind, like I said last time, that I haven't actually played the game in a little bit of time. I did recently replay it, so if I don't remember all too much about it and about all these caves, that's why. Feel free to leave your opinions on what I ranked everything and down in the description below. I would love to hear them if you have ever played Pikmin 2. An amazing game. I loved it, and I'm actually probably going to replay it again very soon. But I think we should just start off with something that I said last time, which, if people could actually properly hear me on there, I said people probably wouldn't be too happy about, and that is having the Emergence Cave. The first cave in the game at a C tier. And that is because the cave is kind of underwhelming. For the first cave in the game, you would expect something, maybe not too great, but at least something with a boss to just kind of get you going and let you know what foot you're starting this game off on. But this cave actually has no boss. And normally, if it had just no boss, I would probably put it in F tier or D, one of the two. But there is a saving grace for this. It introduces purple Pikmin, which are actually one of my favorite Pikmin in the entire franchise. Because purple Pikmin are very overpowered, and they help me defeat a lot of the bosses. Not only that, but the cave is only 2 floors. And I can get that for a first cave, but it just felt a little underwhelming for me. On to the second one, we have Frontier Cavern. This boss of this cave is Empress stage 2, with all of her children out and trying to chase you down on the final floor. Now, this cave can be pretty difficult. It is a late game cave, and I'm putting it in F tier for the simple reason of the boss. It is so dumb. You have fought Empress once. Why fight them again? It is so annoying and so tedious just to have to do this. And honestly, they could have probably come up with a much better idea than a second iteration of Empress and it would have made the cave infinitely better. But it is just for the simple fact of the reused boss with a little bit added extra, and the added extra is very annoying. It can get rid of your Pikmin very easily. It is pretty freaking difficult to deal with this boss. And normally more difficult bosses would mean higher ratings, but it's not so much this boss is difficult, because there's pretty easy ways to get around this. It's more tedious and time-consuming, and that's what brings it down to an F tier. Now, jumping from the lows to the highs, we bring in the Subterranean Complex, which has the man at legs. This is going into an A tier for one simple reason, which is the boss. Now, whenever I first went into the game, I didn't expect a boss like the man at legs. And at first, I'm gonna be perfectly honest, I did not like the man at legs. I didn't get to fight it my first time around because I didn't make it that far, but the second time around, whenever I actually tried to get into playing it, this boss made me lose so many Pikmin. But this is where the Subterranean Complex and the Frontier Cavern differ. It's not a tedious task to have to deal with the man at legs. It's not time-consuming. It is something that requires effort, not time. If you're good at throwing your yellow Pikmin, this boss is easy. But it's the fact that not only is it kind of easy to defeat, but it can also be very devastating if you don't deal with it correctly, because it has a gun. It has a gun. And if your Pikmin are not out of there before it starts shooting, I'm telling you, your Pikmin are gone. I remember one time whenever I was playing, and I lost, I'm pretty sure, just about 50 Pikmin from that one floor. Very, very tedious. Next up is the Hole of Beasts, another C tier. Now, this is C tier because it's the Empress Bulblax for the first stage, but it's not tedious. It's not time consuming. It's actually very easy to deal with. But it's what I feel like should have and could have been the first actual boss for this game. I feel like in all seriousness, this cave right here could have been the first cave of the game, and I would have loved it. I probably would have actually put it in an A tier because it's kind of, you know, a summary of what you're expecting to see in the game. And that the only reason it's C tier is actually because it appears later in the game. It's not like the first cave that you go in. So yeah, that's why it's right there. Next, on to the next A tier, we have the White Flower Garden. Now, the reason that this one is A tier is because, first of all, the boss is amazing. The Burrowing Snagger freaked me out the first time I played it, and oh my gosh, are the white Pikmin so useful. And the thing that scared me the most whenever playing this game is I'm always scared of losing my Pikmin, especially the white and the purple ones, because those are pretty difficult to get without having to go back on separate days and farm, and I like to get like under 30-day runs in if I can. And so this cave, with all the levels and with all the treasures introducing you to the white Pikmin and then the Burrowing Snagger, the only reason that it's not an S tier is because the Burrowing Snagger appears as kind of a more common enemy a little bit later. Maybe not common, but during the Snagger hole, it does become a little bit more tedious as you have to fight them throughout, and then you have more caves where you have to fight them throughout, and then you also have in front of the Snagger hole where you have to fight them throughout, and it just gets a little bit time consuming sometimes, and that's the real reason why it's in there. The Bulblax Kingdom. This is an easy F tier for the simple reason of the Emperor Bulblax being the boss. The Emperor Bulblax takes no time at all to defeat. There's an infamous strat, very, very famous strat, I mean, in the game, where you take all of your purple Pikmin in your party, you go up to the set of eyes, and you just start spam throwing, and the Emperor Bulblax dies within seconds. Not only that, but the Emperor Bulblax is so weak that it actually becomes a common enemy in the game later on. Why? Why did they make this cave? If it wasn't for the boss, the cave would have probably been so much better. I probably would have ranked it higher. Now for the Snagger hole. This will be a D tier. D tier for the reoccurring boss of the Burrowing Snagger, but also because of the Pileated Snagger. The Pileated Snagger is kind of cool. It's a cool idea, but in practice, I don't really like it too much. It is not that tedious, and it's not that time consuming. You know, I kind of want the bosses to like make me think a little bit more, because I feel like that's more what the Pikmin games are. They're more like strategy based, I feel like. Or, you know, just a lot more fun if you can actually like maybe not take your time with bosses, but if the bosses are more like in your face. But the Pileated Snagger is just jumping around, and it's pretty difficult to kill, honestly. But whenever you put them both together, it makes a pretty bad cave. But honestly, I kind of got to put it up there because, you know, I mean, the Burrowing Snagger is kind of like, it takes it down a notch, but it also puts it back up, because the Burrowing Snagger is like a really good boss in my opinion. So yeah, that's the only reason it's in D tier, not F. On to the next one. Citadel Spiders. Now, the first time that I ever went in this cave, the beady Longlegs, the boss of this cave, it scared me. Because I went in the middle, and I was like, why is there a huge cobweb here? And I go in there with my Pikmin, and I walk around, and then out of nowhere, I hear the and then the boss just drops down. And there's another thing like that we'll get into a little bit later, but it freaked me out, and I lost quite a few Pikmin that fight. But since then, the only reason it's not an A tier is actually because of this. I have figured out a very easy way to defeat the boss, and it's just called yellow Pikmin and pink spray. The pink spray is way too overpowered in this boss fight. It is way too easy to make you win this boss fight. That's the only reason it's in B tier and not A. Now, also, if you don't know how the rankings work, S tier is just like above and beyond. A tier is really good, B tier is good, C tier is normal, D tier is bad, F tier is really bad. So, on to the next one. Of course, Glutton's Kitchen. This is gonna have to be a C tier because, you know, same thing as the Bulblex, or not the Bulblex Kingdom, the Hole of Beasts. You know, it's kind of what I would expect from a first dungeon or a first cave or something, because it's very neutral. You know, it's not like out there. It's like the boss isn't too difficult. The boss actually isn't difficult at all. The boss is very easy to defeat. The treasure is very good. And, you know, some of the levels though can be pretty difficult to go through, especially if you're not well enough prepared, or if you don't know just about what's on each floor. So, the shower room is one that I don't really remember too much, but the boss is the Ranging Bloister, which I do remember is actually pretty easy to defeat. Another reason why this one's in B tier, same as most of the other ones, why it goes down a tier, is because the boss is pretty easy to defeat. And the good thing about the caves, though, is that the cave doesn't really feel like it's dragging on for me. I don't know, maybe for other people. Like, I kind of remember this. Like, I don't really remember it, but I kind of remember, you know. But, like, I just remember the cave actually being kind of fun. And then, like, the final boss always kind of freaked me out because it can kind of, like, eat Pikmin through the walls and stuff with its super antenna powers or whatever. But, like, after you get your Pikmin down to break down the gates and stuff, this boss is insanely easy to defeat. So, I'm putting it in B tier because, you know, it's a really good cave, but the boss is just too weak. Now on to my favorite cave. The Submerged Castle. The Submerged Castle is an easy S tier. If you guys don't know about the Submerged Castle, you guys have probably not played Pikmin before, or Pikmin 2, I mean. This cave actually made me stop playing the game whenever I was younger. I remember playing this game, and then out of nowhere, I hear that sound. And if you've played the game, you know what sound I'm talking about. The sound that gives you nightmares. I dropped this game, and I did not pick it up for another, like, 3 years. This cave scared me so much. And it is such a good cave because it instills so much fear in you. And then the boss is so easy to defeat. I'm not going to give out any spoilers for this cave if you haven't played it yourself. I mean, I did just say that the boss is pretty easy to defeat. But, you know, maybe that'll confuse a few people. If you haven't played Pikmin 2 yet, you totally should go play it. It's a very good game. In my opinion, not a lot of people like it, but I very much enjoy this game. And let's just say that the Submerged Castle is terrifying in a good way. It's a really good cave. Now we're on to the final stage of caves. These caves, in my opinion, are some of the best in the game. Just because I feel like the team put a lot more effort into the final caves, and especially the final cave was amazing. So first of all, we have the Cavern of Chaos, which I'm going to give an A tier because of the segmented Cropster boss. This boss is actually pretty difficult to beat. I will be honest. The first time I tried beating this thing, I lost probably about half of my Pikmin. It was very difficult to beat. I could not do it. And not only is the boss difficult to beat, which is already a good sign for a good cave, but the prize you get from beating it is a baby doll head. And it's called like the Silencer or something. It is pretty scary. And it's just not it. But it is something that I really enjoyed. The cave is something I really enjoyed, and I know a lot of other people did too. So it's pretty good. Also, yeah, no, it was called the Silencer. So on to the next cave, the Hall of Heroes. I'm gonna give this one a B tier because the Raging Longlegs is a pretty good boss, but it is also very easy to beat. So it's practically the same thing with the shower room. Really good boss, too easy to beat though. That's all I'm gonna say about this cave. Now you may notice we only have one left, and if you have played the game, you know what this cave is. It's the Dream Den, with the boss of the Titan Dweevil. After so long, you finally get to this cave. Again, no spoilers for this. This cave was so difficult to go through. I lost at least 3/4 of my Pikmin the first time I went through this. The second time I went through this, I also lost 3/4 of my Pikmin. Whenever I was fighting the final boss, I only had, I'm pretty sure, blue Pikmin left. It was insanely difficult to do this. And honestly, if this was not the final cave of the game, I probably wouldn't have rated it as high as it was. Because this final battle, this cave is what makes the game as a whole. And this cave goes above and beyond our expectations. At least for me. Whenever I went into this game and I went into it and I saw the final cave, I wasn't expecting anything too grand. But this boss delivers and more. This boss was insanely good. And for that, easy S tier. Right up there with the Submerged Castle. And that's gonna have to do it for this. Now, again, this is only my opinion, so please don't leave like hate comments in the description like, oh, Bossman, your freaking Pikmin 2 cave tier is garbage. You're getting canceled because you put because you put the Longlegs Kingdom in F tier. You're done. You're canceled. No. I would love to hear if you guys would put any altercations of this list, or if you would change anything on this list. What would you do with it? Please let me know in the description below. Go ahead and leave a comment like that. And yeah, so make sure you go click all those links in the description if you guys want to, and like and subscribe if you guys did enjoy. But yeah, so this is gonna have to be all for now. Stay hydrated, of course. And this is Mr. Bossman 914 signing out.